Hi everyone, Angela Gerard, mortgage loan originator with Angie Home Loans and Nexa Lending. And today will be episode 3 of our Mortgage Home Loan Process 101. In the first episode, we gave kind of a basic outline of what the loan process looks like from application to closing. In the second episode, we went behind the scenes and talked a little bit about what the loan originator and lender are looking at to get you pre-qualified. So today we're going to assume that you got your pre-qualification, and so now what? What are our next steps? So if you're like most borrowers, you've already got a little bit of a picture of what you want in that perfect home that you're looking for. So maybe you've been on some of those house search apps, Redfin, Zillow, Homes.com, Realtor.com, and you've got a general idea of what you're looking for. Now it's time to kind of zone in and fine tune that. So what I recommend to a lot of people is make a list, and on one side you put your absolute priorities. We have 4 kids, so we need, 4 bedrooms or whatever it might be. And then maybe on the other side, you put things that you would like to have in that home, but it's not a deal breaker if those things aren't included. So kind of narrow things down a little bit. Your next step is going to be to find a realtor. You're going to want to find a realtor that is located in the areas that you're shopping for homes. And not all realtors are built the same. So, really kind of question them, get the feel for who they are and what they do and what they offer. It's important to find the right one, somebody that you kind of mesh with, because this is probably one of the biggest purchases you're going to make in your lifetime. So you want to find somebody that's knowledgeable, driven, friendly, and willing to make you a priority. Are they easy to reach, and do they return your calls quickly? Are they willing to take the time to explain things in a way that you understand? If not, if something feels off, just move on. Go find somebody that you feel very comfortable with. So once you find a realtor, you're going to give them your pre-qualification letter that explains to them the loan program that you're pre-qualified for and the max loan amount that you're pre-qualified for. Then you're also going to give them your list of things that you're looking for, or just explain it to them, paint them a picture of, what your perfect house looks like. This is going to help them, fine tune things down and narrow down a list of hundreds of homes into maybe the top 10 or the top 5 that you are interested in, so that they can start scheduling appointments with the sellers for you to go in and do a walkthrough. So let's say that you've found that perfect home and you're ready to make an offer. This is where your realtor will come in and hopefully, explain everything to you and help you kind of negotiate that offer. Some things that go into the purchase offer are the offer price. You don't always have to offer them what they're asking for the home. Some people, might start off, offering $5,000 to $10,000 less than the asking price. Or if you're somebody that needs to come to the closing table with a little less money out of pocket, and let's say they're asking $200,000, you could also make an offer of $205,000 and ask them to then cover $5,000 of your closing costs. So the offer gives you a lot of ability to negotiate things that kind of fit your individual needs. Some other things that go into it are the split of the closing costs. Most of the time there's a natural split. The seller pays for this, the buyer pays for that. But again, you can negotiate here. depending on your needs. And your realtor can really walk you through what that looks like. Are there any seller concessions? This would be, let's say, you love this house, but the flooring is old and needs to be replaced. So the seller offers, let's say, a $5,000 seller concession to help you with the, putting new flooring into that property. Or the seller concession where they're going to cover some of your closing costs. The inspection period and possible renegotiations. So in every contract, you should have an inspection period. This is where you can send out your home inspector, roofing inspector, pest control inspectors, and get a better idea of what's going on with that home. And it also allows you a certain amount of time to do this and to renegotiate if something comes up that you're not happy with. Let's say the home inspector goes out and says, yeah, the AC is shot. The AC is going to need to be replaced. So you can then renegotiate with those sellers and say, hey, I want more concessions, or for you to knock down the price a little bit because we're going to have to replace this air conditioning system. Or you can also ask them to replace it and leave everything else the same. How long does the seller have to respond to your offer? I believe this is usually within a week. You write an offer, you give them your offered purchase price, and they have a certain amount of time to respond to you before that offer is null and void. And this is just to prevent any wasting of your time. And, if they're not willing to budge or negotiate, then you can move on to the next home. Are there any contingencies? Contingencies are things that are written into the contract to protect one of the people within the contract, the buyer or the seller. So one of the contingencies might be, or one of them that used to come up was somebody that was shopping for a home prior to getting their pre-qualification letter. So they, maybe they jumped on a home that they knew was a great deal before they had time to go get that pre-qual letter. So you could make a contingency. This offer is contingent upon us being able to get acceptable financing for this home. That's just an example, and like I've kind of told you guys, it's better to get with your lender first and get all that stuff taken care of before you write an offer. But there's a lot of different contingencies that can go into a purchase contract. And your realtor can explain those. Closing date. In typical purchase offer, there will be an estimated closing date. So, we are writing this offer. If you accept it, we want to close on or before such and such a date. This prevents the seller from possibly, maybe the seller is trying to buy another home while they're selling this one, and this prevents them from dragging it on for 3 months. So again, your realtor can help you with that. Early occupancy. This is something that you can write into the contract. Let's say that you're selling your previous home and you're purchasing a new home, and you've already got a closing date on your sale. And the closing date on your purchase doesn't happen for maybe 2 weeks past you having to be out of your existing home. You can write into the offer that you want to take early occupancy. Doesn't mean the seller has to agree with it, but you can ask for it. And a lot of times the seller will then ask for like a daily rental amount if you do move in sooner. And again, your realtor can go over all of this with you. So once your offer is written, either at the time of submitting the offer or once that offer is accepted and you guys are in a mutual contract, you will need to provide what we call an earnest money deposit. The amount will vary depending on the home price, the area, the realtor, etc. But typically it's about $1,000 to $3,000, And this is, you can look at it almost like a security deposit that you put on a rental, or a good faith offer, letting the seller know that you are serious about this. You're a serious buyer, you've been pre-qualified, you're putting a little bit of skin in the game, telling them that, you're not, gonna disappear, that this offer is a serious offer. These are held in a non-interest bearing escrow account that your realtor can set up for you, maybe at the title company. And they're held there until one of two things: either closing, and then that amount is credited towards your purchase, so you're not losing anything, or if the deal falls through for no fault of your own, then that money can either be refunded to you, or in some cases maybe just held onto and used as an earnest money on the next home that you write a contract on. It just depends on the realtor, the title company, whatever. They may have to, for their own bookwork, refund that one, and then you have to write a new one on a new home. So now you have an accepted offer, you have your earnest money in there, you have everything drawn into that contract, and now the kind of behind the scenes process starts going. Some different things that are going to be required of you as this process goes on are updated pay stubs, updated bank accounts. The lender's going to want to, like we've talked about before, they're going to check on things throughout the process and make sure everything's still where it should be and where it was when you got pre-qualified. Some other things that you can start doing is putting in or starting a change of address. You can start shopping for your homeowner's insurance and get a quote on what that's going to look like. Look into what the property taxes are going to be on the property, and just start getting kind of everything set up. If you have children and you're going to have to move their schools, you can start looking into those types of things. And then as we move further toward closing, you're going to receive some disclosures from your lender that give you the more, in the beginning we send out estimated disclosures of what all the loan costs are going to look like and your payment and everything else. Now we can fine tune that, and we have to provide that to you 3 days prior to closing. And this is going to spell out, okay, it's this house at this purchase price with this interest rate. This is your payment, including your principal, interest, taxes, insurance, any MIP or PMI, and, everything that is involved in that mortgage payment is going to be disclosed on that paperwork. 3 days after that, you can close. And what this process looks like, you have an option to choose your title company, or you can, take recommendations from your realtor or your lender. And typically these days, a lot of documents that you have to sign at closing can be done prior to closing online, so that you don't have a 2-inch stack of paperwork to sign at the closing table and come out of there with carpal tunnel. So a lot of this can be done online digitally, and your lender can walk you through that. And then on the day of closing, you're going to go into the title company. You're going to sign the last few documents. You're going to, all those credits are going to go towards your purchase price. You're going to bring in the down payment or closing costs that you owe. The seller, on the other hand, is going to be in a different closing, signing all their documents and receiving their funds from the sale. And after closing, usually within 24 hours, it depends on, if business is open the next day, if the banks are open, the loan will be funded, which means monies will be dispersed, and then you can get the keys and get that rental truck and start packing and moving. if you haven't taken early occupancy. So that's kind of how that process looks. And again, I want to stress, don't change any of your circumstances during this process where the lender might start questioning your pre-qualification. Don't quit or change your job. Don't start applying for new credit. Don't finance large purchases. Don't be moving money around. Don't skip any of your normal monthly payments, because again, the lenders will check things all the way through to closing. So make sure you keep everything intact and, on par until after you get those keys and move in. One other thing I've noticed that's different than years ago when I used to have my mortgage company in Alaska is nowadays the lenders will a lot of times send somebody by your property, within a certain time period, maybe 1 to 3 months after you've purchased, to make sure that you are owner occupying that property. So don't be surprised if somebody shows up at your door and says they need to kind of walk around, take some pictures, and, make sure that you are the person that's supposed to be living there. So that kind of summarizes that next step in the home loan process. But if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. It doesn't cost anything. I do free consults. I can, even if you're in a state that I'm not licensed in, I can kind of walk you through things and tell you what you might need to work on prior to getting approved. And if you know somebody that's in the process or looking or thinking of buying a home, please share this video with them. Like, follow, all that good stuff to support my channel. And thank you for popping in, guys. I'll see you next time. Have a great day.